Mr. Phil,
Yes.
how you doing?
Good. How you doing, man?
I'm doing good. I like the whole beard. You're looking good.
Good. Check me out.
I like it.
Oh man, it's my my stay-at-home beard.
It's a good look, man. You got a good look going on there.
Oh, thanks.
By the way, are you still training or no?
Well, not in the gym because they're not open yet, but hopefully they will be soon. But yeah, just getting after it in the backyard when the weather is decent. We got some weights, but it's nothing like obviously Armbrust Pro Gym. So just doing what we can, trying to pivot, do different things, work on some stretching, and I've been doing the yoga and the Peloton, and just trying to do different stuff to keep me going.
That's I bet it's got to be something that's craziness because for you, your office is the gym. If you can't go to the gym,
Yeah, it's
got to drive you nuts.
It can, and initially, I would say it did because you're wondering when we'll be able to go back, and we didn't have that definitive answer. Like we're just now talking about the phase 1, and now the gyms are being included in that. It gives some more hope, but I'm very thankful that I've acquired some mature muscle, and I know you know what I mean by that. So therefore, it doesn't just go away overnight. You acquired this over years of hard training and diet. So the good thing is that I haven't missed any meals, so that's great.
And that's a big part of the game is the meal. So Phil, you're in the world. I mean, I'm in a financial world, and I talk to guys in different industries. How's the fitness? How's the bodybuilding world doing? You're hearing all these articles about 24-hour fitness CEO talking, Gold's Gym, GNC. What can you tell us with the current conditions of the fitness industry?
Well, I believe they got hit harder than what people could ever imagine. There's literally over 150 million gym memberships across the country, and a lot of people, and that it's not 150 million people. It's just people have a lot of memberships to various gyms. They use it to get over depression. They use it for bodybuilding, use it for all different types of therapy. And it's like they took their medicine away. So those gym owners, I can only imagine what's going through the 24-hour fitnesses. We've seen Gold's Gym get affected heavily. I believe they said that they were getting rid of 30 gyms permanently. That's pretty sad to say permanently. Quite a few gyms that I know of throughout the country, gym owners who are also some promoters, they're just like, I wish I would have prepared, because now they're looking at possibly shutting down. So it's been very depressing, but very enlightening because, obviously watching your content with Valuetainment, I wish a lot of those guys would have, participated, because maybe they would have been a little bit more recession proof or pandemic proof. But then there are those that are pivoting. There are those that are that have prepared, and they will definitely see a lot of new faces once these gyms reopen. But the problem is that how do we reopen? The distancing, the cleanliness is one thing, but the distancing, and I've talked about it with the Dylan Armbrust, who owns the gym I train at. Are you going to scan everybody's face, with the temperature when they walk in? The answer is yes. Like, how many people can you have there per hour? Are you going to spread out like equipment? Are you going to only allow, one person per 5 feet? Instead of having people on the same step mill or same cardio equipment side by side, are you going to have like one every other? The question is everybody going to have to wear a mask when they enter the gym? All these things. And it's very interesting, but the supplement industry has definitely been impacted, obviously with, I have my company, Heath Labs. We just started like freshly after the Vault last year on Amazon Prime Day. Mm-hmm. And I would say the international business of everything is very, very troublesome at this point, because just because we're reopening doesn't mean the rest of the world is. And a lot of the rest of the world, their GDP is much different than ours. So like, how are they going to spend money? Like, they're not getting the same bailouts as companies here. So it's definitely time to be very patient and to reevaluate everything, new strategy.
Yeah, it's going to be. I was reading the article about Gold's Gym. I think the biggest state that they shut down was Texas. A lot of the Dallas gyms shut down Gold's Gym.
Wow.
You had Missouri that was on the list, and a few other places. Let me see if this audio is from my end. And I want to make sure the audio is coming out good on my end. So, yeah, it's going to be interesting to see how these guys pivot with all the things that are taking place. I didn't know the 150 million memberships, by the way. That's a pretty big number right there, 150 million memberships.
I mean, it's a lot of people that, have memberships for various gyms, gosh, it's crazy when you really think about it, like how many people, which is actually really cool to know that there was a lot of people that loved the gym that much that they would have a gym membership here and one in a different city to do, maybe they have like a Soul Cycle membership, a bodybuilding-esque type of membership that allows them to shoot basketball at maybe a 24-hour or whatever. It's very interesting, but I would really be curious as to see like that fourth quarter, like who's still around.
Yeah, I'm curious myself, because when you were painting the picture of what are you going to do at the gym, 6 feet, cardio machines, you're touching metal, do you wipe metals, does somebody go around wiping metals? It's very technical.
I never thought of that,
right?
To be honest, it's, I guess we've always been in a dirty environment in the gym, and talking to, different gym owners now, like you could go on their Instagrams, they're like wiping down the plates. Some have bought new ones. Like they're just like, we're starting fresh. I'm like, wow. Some are hiring, towel service. Like, what do you do? Like, you don't want to allow people to maybe bring in their own towel because maybe they brought in something from home or somewhere else. So now you have to think about the towel service that you provide.
Oh, yeah.
And right now, during that first phase, do we shut down the locker rooms? Because the showers could breed bacteria. So you're touching, it's like, how do you police this? So it's very interesting amongst like other businesses. I mean, if you're in an office building, like you can sanitize things, you can have a cleaning crew come in every night, this and that. But a gym is completely different. So it's I'm beyond casually curious right now. I'm very passionate about it. Like, I want to know. I wish I was able to sit on one of those boards of the President's Council of Fitness, because I would love to just listen in on all these business leaders who lobbied to get the gyms onto that first phase. Because initially, I believe they weren't even thought about. And then it was like a massive influx. Like they got above bars in certain restaurants. Very interesting.
It is. Phil, by the way, is my audio coming out clear, or is there a little bit static when I'm speaking?
No, you're great.
Clear. Okay, that's good to know. Then it's on mine. Okay. So, that's the fitness, the gym side. How's the bodybuilding world doing? By the way, everybody else that's watching this, tag your favorite bodybuilder, Mr. Olympia, anybody in fitness, tag them all, because they're going to want to hear what Dr. Phil, a.k.a. the gift, has to tell us with the current marketplace. And but the bodybuilding world, I mean, you got shows. I was talking to Dexter. Dexter came back from Arnold Classic.
Right.
And, he said that was the first phase of coronavirus, where the expo was shut down. But you got many of them around going on right now. How's the bodybuilding world handling this?
They're scrambling. I mean, some have been more proactive. Like, obviously with the Arnold Classic, I mean, they generate literally, I believe it was like over $50 million in those 3 days in Columbus, Ohio, just in other businesses and stuff. So that's gone. The vendors that would appear at an Arnold Schwarzenegger Classic in Columbus, Ohio, I mean, they probably have at least 1,000, 500 at least, different booths and stuff selling different things. That was gone. And that always, the Arnold Schwarzenegger Classic, the Arnold Classic is like the kickoff to the bodybuilding season. So right after that, everybody's excited. They want to, here's my money. I want to buy the newest product. I want to buy the newest shirt. I want to buy the newest, what supplements do you have? Like, what equipment do you have? It all leads into, because you have that show, you have the URSA show, which is about equipment and whatnot. That's in California. You then have, that following month, you have the FIBO Power, which is in Cologne, Germany. That is probably the largest international fitness expo in the world. That was shut down. They tried to postpone it, and then they were like, we got to focus on 2021. So, and they have, the Arnold Classic usually has like 2 halls, like 2 main halls. The FIBO has over 12. So you can only imagine like how many countries come there to do commerce. So all the supplement companies, all the apparel companies have suffered from not being able to go to these events. Those 2 are largest aside from the Olympia. And now with the current shows, not just in our federation, it's all federations had to move their events. So for us in the IFBB Pro League, they were very proactive. Jim Mangan and his crew sent out a memo encouraging everybody to contact, their chairman and work it out to where they can move their dates. As a matter of fact, I was having my Phil Heath Classic in Houston. I was moving it from Dallas to Houston this April, and we luckily moved it to September, with only hoping that it'll still be available. But I tell you what, I had a lot of work that was scheduled, a lot of appearances, even for me. That, a lot of those got canceled too. So some gave me a deposit, which was great, thank God. But like other ones, it's like, sorry, Phil, like it is. So I can only imagine, I know if it affected my pocketbook, it affected everyone. So it's an ongoing thing. I definitely believe that if we can somehow safely get back to normal, hopefully by summer people start feeling more comfortable. And it all revolves around the rest of the world, really. It's not just US with bodybuilding in our industry. We really have to like focus on the different countries that aren't as powerful as us, because those competitors, they have it rougher than we do, for sure. They don't have the same, they just don't have the same society. So it's I'm speechless. Like I can't believe, like it's very interesting. It's uncharted territory. It's unprecedented.
Do you think Mr. Olympia is still going to happen in September?
I believe that from what I've seen that they're on track. My concern would be, they have a great product. They've been going around for 56 years. They're going to for sure have this show this year. I 100% believe that, because they've built, it's the standalone. Like it's the Olympia. It has to happen, right? But I'm sure they would be heavy on the phones right now, making sure that, hey, GNC, what's going on? Gold Gym, what's going on? This company, what's going on? What's going on? Are you okay? Because you need vendors for these expos. And that's a huge moneymaker for all promoters. Those partnerships that you've had for years and years. How are you? I think those are the questions that I'm sure they've been, asking. And genuinely asking, like, hey, how's your family? Like, is everybody okay? What can we do to help mitigate and then push forward? So I would say with the new owner, Jake Wood, I believe that he would be doing that along with Dan Solomon. I'm confident that they're making those calls. It's just that right now, they don't necessarily have control over the economy. So if there's 100 companies that wanted to exhibit at an Olympia, which in fact they would probably also throw money at his feet, some type of sponsor, and they just had to lay off half their staff, they're not thinking about any shows. So even if you took the Olympia out, they're not thinking, they're just trying to survive another month. So I would say once June hits, I think we'll get a better understanding. None of us can keep secrets in this industry, so we'll all and all business owners are calling each other up, which is actually pretty cool. Like they're saying, like, "Hey, are you all right? You all right? Like, you still alive?" And I always remember what I heard you say about 3 weekends ago, you were up early on a Sunday doing a live, and you said the first rule of business is what? Stay in business. And that's the biggest thing right now, is that the Olympia is going to stay in business. I'm confident in that. I'm more concerned with the other companies.
How do you feel about the new ownership of Mr. Olympia?
I've known Jake for a while. Saw what he did with the Wings of Strength model. You know, I'm very happy for him, actually, because, you know, you and I both have talked about this, and you've mentioned this even on your own, that the Olympia of all things has to have a passionate leader. You know, obviously you have to have the finances and stuff like that, but you have to be very passionate. Joe Weider was passionate. Even some of the other guests that you've had on, very passionate people. And Jake is that guy. He's a man of very few words, but you could tell that his passion is strong. And I knew, like, once his name came up, I was like, okay, at least we have someone that has been inside of our sport in some fashion for quite some time, that isn't just thinking about the numbers of money. And that's no shot at David, you know, Pecker, but that's, he wasn't a bodybuilder, you know, he wasn't a Joe Weider. So I'm very happy for Jake.
You know, I wish our friend Dan Solomon would have told me that Mr. Olympia brand was for sale when I met with them, because other people were interested, but that statement was never made. You know, I thought, yeah, I thought for sure nobody had interest in this. I specifically asked the question probably 3 or 4 times, but I didn't get an answer about there being an interest for sale. I know somebody very close to me. I spent a lot of time with this person that would be very interested in buying it, but I wish him nothing but the best with the purchase that was made. Yeah, that was interesting.
There's going to have to be some off the air convo dinner or something eventually and talk about it, because that's I'm surprised.
Yeah.
At some point in time, I know that the rumblings around the industry was to have you be a part of our industry at some, you know, in some advisor or something like that.
Yeah, I mean, you know how I feel about the business. You know how I feel about the industry. You know how I feel and how much respect I have for people like you, because most people see bodybuilding and they say, oh, you know, you just got to go out there and do this. And I could go out there and win Mr. Olympia. And it always reminds me of that one time where the lady said, I would never want my husband to look like you. And he said, don't worry, he never will. You know, it's not like something where anybody can wake up in a day and for 7 straight years become a 7-time Mr. Olympia. Are you kidding me? That's not an easy feat to do that with personal challenges, with health, with injuries, with sickness, with flus, with all this other stuff. And you're trying to keep your life together. So, you know, I got a lot of love for the game, but I understand that. Yeah. So has Dan Solomon reached out? Are you guys on speaking terms?
Oh, yeah, for sure. I mean,
Hi.
going into the Olympia last year, um, we started texting, I want to say around May of last year. So we had dialogue, and he was giving me perspective as to what they were doing, because I always feel like when you're friends with someone, or at least when you're really good acquaintances with somebody, you should give them constructive criticism, because you want things to be better, and your friends should push you, right? So I did. I was like, hey, you know, I really feel like you should be doing this with your marketing. You should be doing this, you do that. And he's like, slow down. You need to think about it this way. I'm like, no, I've been around. Like, I've seen this fail. I've seen this work. And we had that dialogue, which was really good. And then leading up into the Olympia, I think he started seeing content come out of me in the gym training. And he was like hitting me up like, dude, like, you're doing the Olympia. And I'm like, no, I'm not doing Olympia. He's like, no, you definitely look like you're doing the show. I just saw you over in Europe. You're over here training with your shirt off. Like, this looks great. Let's talk. And I'm like, no, I'm not doing a show. But then after the show happened, you know, I just told him, I said, hey, there's nothing like as far as like an issue or bitterness or anything toward you or anyone really. And it's always good to me to have those, you know, those open transparent combos, because the internet, as you know, the fake news will come out and people will make up their own narrative, and they do it obviously for their own personal benefit to get their views up and the comments and engagement. But yeah, I don't have any issue with him, and I was actually happy for him as well, because he's been in the sport for a long time.
You can tell he loves the game. That's one thing. You know, when we had dinner together, you can tell he loves the game. And I just hope, you can't say this, but I can say this. I hope they take care of their 7-time champions. I hope they take care of their winners. I hope they take care of the people that are the faces of Mr. Olympia and bodybuilding. I hope they do that. I think if they do that, it's going to be big. You know, a lot of times it's easy for, I just had a meeting this morning with our staff. We had a staff meeting today, and we're Zooming because we have 80% of our employees working from home, 20% out of the home office. And I had a meeting, and every single time we have this meeting, I remind them, don't forget, we have this insurance company that's growing and doing well because there are 14,000 agents that are selling a policy to somebody out there while you have a job here. So in the world of bodybuilding, you know, the brand exists because there's bodybuilders out there that are training tirelessly, diet, all the stuff they got to put their bodies through. Without those bodybuilders, there is no brand. So they got to remember who the talent is. I hope he continues doing that. So look, question everyone's asking me. They're saying, Pat, rumor has it in the streets you're good friends with Phil Heath. I said, first of all, let's just say it is a rumor we're good friends. What's wrong with that rumor? There's nothing wrong with being friends with Phil Heath. Yeah, Phil Heath and I have a relationship together. But Phil, are you going to compete in Mr. Olympia or Athleticon?
Well, right now, we can't even really get into the gym right now. So, you know, I definitely feel like those are two events that spark a lot of interest. You know, I've never competed at Athleticon. I do know that it would be their inaugural season. So once they make their announcements or whatever, along with the Olympia, I think for me it's more like, how do I align life in itself with business and obviously my personal life, and then the desire to want to compete again, because I got a taste of not doing it, and there was parts of it that I liked, and there's parts of it that I didn't like. So I think a better answer would come when we get through this phase one, you know, and be back into business and kind of see like, okay, maybe I get on the phone with Dan, maybe I get on the phone with Jake, you know, I talk it over with my manager, Danny Garcia, and the team over at TGC, and we kind of figure out, because Pat, I was standing on your doorstep and I told you what I wanted to do. I was like, I'm not competing. I'm going to do TV and film. I want to be a Hollywood star. I want to be the next Dwayne Johnson.
Yep.
I want to do all that stuff. And you're like, Phil, compete, like you're the legend, this and that. But I feel like that part of last year, we started that process of transitioning away. And that takes a lot of time and effort. But with Hollywood not filming right now, and with bodybuilding shows not happening right now, it's kind of like at a standstill. So you kind of have a time to not relax, but to kind of look around and say, okay, voice coaches, acting coaches, like, can we do stuff right now? Okay, no, you can't. You need to physically see me. Okay, all right. Gym, there's no gym. Okay, there's no show. What? But once all that stuff kind of calms down, I feel like everything is going to kind of merge and kind of figure it out on its own. And then once that happens, I feel like a decision has to be made. I will do this. I will not leave the fans hanging. That's for sure. When there's a time where I can make a decision, I'm going to say yes, or I'm going to say no. I'm not going to drag it out, you know, because I don't think that's okay. Because no one likes holdouts from athletes with contracts. They definitely ain't going to like it with a 7-time champ.
Yeah, I remember that conversation you and I had. We were at the house. I don't even know what time it was. 2:00 in the morning. Your Uber was waiting for 45 minutes. You kept telling him, run the miles, and he's outside waiting. Poor guy. You want me to leave? Feels like, no, just start the mile.
Yeah, I'm like, we don't get to hang out much. So I'm like, man, like, he can come back.
But you know, for me, it was more the love of the game because you never want to see a guy leave that's got 5 more years. You realistically, you could be a first double-digit Mr. Olympia champion. But I also understand. By the way, I posted a comment right here. I'm curious to know what you guys are saying. Maybe he's going to take your counsel. Should Phil Heath compete in Athleticon or Mr. Olympia? Comment below. I'm sure he's going to get a chance to watch some of the comments. Should he compete in Mr. Olympia and go for 8 times, tying Lee Haney and Ronnie, and maybe going for 9 times, first ever? Or should he just say, look, man, I'm going to go pursue Danny Garcia, Dwayne Johnson, Hollywood. I got the looks, I got the eyes, I've got a physique. I can go out there and run a bunch of movies, get paid millions of dollars, and not just for a few $100,000. Comment below. Tell us which one you're thinking he should go for. And keep inviting these Mr. Olympia talent, the bodybuilders, to on here to listen as well. But, you know, for me, the question I have is, say if coronavirus wasn't going on and the shutdown wasn't going on. Say it wasn't going on. Were you getting ready to compete? Like, were you, because you know, it's pretty obvious to kind of see you can only hide so much. You look legit. You know what I'm saying? You look really good. Like, were you kind of planning on saying, I'm going to be ready. If I go this way and compete Athleticon, I'm ready for that. If I go Mr. Olympia, I'm ready for, are you kind of in that state right now?
Going into this year, well, let me backtrack. So in December, I turned 40, and I remember I was like, you know what? I want to write down some goals and this and that. And I was like, not trying to take the quote last dance, but like one more ride. And I was like, question mark in my notepad. I was like, one more ride. And I was like, if you could only do it one time, like, would you do it one time? You know, like, because that's maybe all you'd be offered because of the other endeavors that I'd have. And I was like, well, I would entertain it. And I would just have to make sure that the scheduling, everything would have to be in alignment, because I have functioned out of chaos many times getting ready for the Olympia. And it's not always fun. And I thought, well, if I had a chance to make it work for myself, because I'm the one that has to go in the gym, I'm the one that has to do all that stuff. Have I ever had it like where it was kind of perfect or damn near close, like with business, with relationship, with this, with everything? I was like, well, if everything came together, I mean, it's kind of like a no-brainer because it's less stress. Why wouldn't you? But here we are, 2020, getting our asses kicked, but yeah, leading into the show, into this year, at the beginning of the year, I was like, wow, like this would be kind of cool. Let's kind of kick the tires around. Let's see what my weight could get up to. Because I didn't really push it hard last year. I was like, let me see, what my PRs would be as far as like, strength is concerned. Because if I can't get to a certain level, I'm not going to expect my muscles to look a certain way. And the last thing you want to do is be a shell of yourself getting ready for a contest like that. Because let's face it, everybody else is still climbing a mountain. For me, it's like a legacy, and you don't want to tarnish it because you're not ready. And but yeah, that was really my mindset. And I almost hit you up. I think I texted you just saying like, man, I was really, before all this happened, I was kind of leaning toward, talking to Danny about like maybe that could be a possibility. And it was more like maybe, like not like last year where it was like kind of like hell no. It was more like, well, what would that look like? Because being away from the stage for I only do one show a year, so that's a long time for me to not be on a stage. So you're like, what is that? And then now writing down like, what does that mean to you? Who's involved? Who's going to help you? Just crossing off things. And I was just like, well, there's not enough boxes being checked off at the moment, but who knows? Like I said, I would hope that if things could align, like I would do one more, because I would love to, give the fans something, at least one more time, at least one. But like I said, if Hollywood called me up tomorrow, and that's the hard part, right? If Hollywood said, hey, Phil, we got you in this new action film, this and that and the other, it's going to require you to be on set for 6-7 months. or you can go do the Olympia that you've already won. Which one are you going to choose? I'm like, well, I was already transitioning away, so I choose the film. But, you know, if there was a way to do both, you know, I'd have to just, because we all want the best of everything. So, you know, I think I'm personally, I feel like I deserve that because I've done the work. But
Absolutely.
have to wait and see.
Yeah. 7 years. Are you choose, you know, you choose, but also at the same time, Michael Jordan went to Jerry and said 36 million. They said yes. I also hope whoever gets you, the brand realizes that, hey, what's in it for me right now? How many more magazine covers are you really looking for? At this point of the game, you don't care about magazine covers. So I hope they're realizing that as well, because you go do a movie, you get $2-3 million check. The winnings for Mr. Olympia right now is what, 400, 450, some number like that?
400, yeah. And it's not bad. And, you know, and I know a lot of fans are like, well, it's not about the money and this and that. It's not necessarily about that. It is about, but it's a part of it. It's not just one of it. It's about the legacy and this and that. It's about the opportunity to do that. But there's opportunity cost that goes into that as well. And we've talked about that before. You know, you got to be able to pay for stuff. Everything ain't free. Food isn't free. Massage therapy ain't free. Chiropractic, acupuncture ain't free. None of this stuff is free. And they're like, oh, you're Mr. Olympia, you get sponsorship. To be honest, like, none of those services I just mentioned I get for free, because I deal with people that I also respect, and I will pay them for their service. And I've always really done that because I just never like owing people stuff. You know, I want them to respect, you know, their own craft and say, hey, look, like, you know, some people want to barter and say, hey, if you do the shout out for me and this and that, that's one thing. But if I call you up in the middle of the night and say, hey man, like, my back just went out and I need you over here at 6 a.m, you're going to be like, hell no, Phil, you got to come in at 9 and this and that. I'm with my kids. I'm not going to wake up my wife and kids for you. But if I'm paying you and I'm paying you well, you're going to do it. You know, you just are. So I understand if I want to be paid, then I have to reciprocate and I have to pay for that service. So it does cost, and you can ask any pro bodybuilder this, it costs money to compete.
Of course.
You know, it costs a lot. So like anyone that isn't sponsored is, you know, it's more difficult, you know, but I would say that a lot of us are very blessed, especially now, like any pro athlete, let alone a pro bodybuilder, men and women right now, that is sponsored during this. You better be calling up that sponsor and thanking them every chance you get. Every chance you get. And you better be posting. When it's time to post, you better be on it, because when it's time for you to compete, they're the ones that help you do what you do for those fans. You know, and you know, I'm not sponsored like that. I used to be. But if I was sponsored like I was back in the day, oh my gosh, like it's not just holding up a bottle and saying, hey, take this. It's more like telling your story and reminding people why they're doing it. You know, but like, you know, I just think right now I'm sensing like a different form of gratitude to what I do have during this this time. You know what, Pat, I was going to ask you, like, do you call this a crisis, or do you call it just a certain time in our life that we're dealing with a pandemic?
No, this is a 100% crisis. I mean, there's no question about it. It's a crisis. And I mean, you're talking about 26.5 million unemployment. We're about to get to 40 million unemployment. Trillions of dollars of investors' money is lost. I'm talking to investment bankers. In their world, they're sitting around trying to do deals, and deals are not out there. They are, but it's not the same deals that they want, and the buyers are a little worried. It's everybody's being hit in a different way, and I actually don't like the approach they're taking right now, but that's a complete different conversation. You know, best thing I heard the other day was this. People call me and they say, Pat, it's irresponsible what you're doing. Why are you going to the office every day? We're being told to stay home. Non-essential. Why are you at work? I said, you know, lady one time gave me the best advice. She said, you know what's the closest thing a man will ever experience to having kids and giving birth to a baby? I said, what? She says, I've given birth to 3 kids. She's telling me this. She says, but I also started a company. And when I started a company, it was very painful. I put my life savings into it. We almost went out of business, sleepless nights, anxiety attack, panic attacks. It almost cost my marriage. The closest pain I've ever experienced to having a kid is starting a business. And that moment when she said that, just like I'm going to be very protective of my kids, I'm also to being protective of the business that I put my lifeblood into, that I have to be protective of it. So it is.
I mean, I think putting it that way, I would love to see someone try to refute that, because the way you illustrate that, because I think of that. I mean, I just started this supplement company last year, and it's like, I can only imagine I put all my savings into this. Someone asked me the other day, hey, could you give me money for my church or this, that? I'm like, honestly, dude, like, it ain't going to be much like I used to. Like, it's all tied into these things. So I can only imagine being a founder 5-10 years from now, it grows. And then I'm faced with these challenges and then being told not to work. It's like, I've seen the videos, Pat. I'm literally at the beginning of those videos where it's like, yeah, you're literally in your car, like almost in tears, like, what am I to do? And this and that. And there ain't no problem with that. The problem is like, do you give up? And the answer is no, you don't give up on your dream. Like, I can't allow someone to make me give up on life, because that's not worth living. It's just not. And expecting a handout, and props to you for not taking the bailout money, creating that. And that, because that told me something. I was like, wow, like, if I do this right, I will have nest eggs here in these buckets here, so that if this happens, I'm good. If this happens, I'm good. And then not just me. It's not just about me and my family. It's about the other employees, their families. Because who wants to get on a phone call? It's one thing to have to let someone go and fire them, for lack of performance, or just, we're going a different direction. But it's another thing, like, when it ain't their fault. That's tough. That's a conversation no person wants to have right now. Like, what bedside manner, what instruction manual does one have? I've already read Patty McCord's book on, what I mean? Like, how do you do that? And it's something I think everybody has a different answer for,
It is definitely weird times, but again, the other part is, I don't know why, no matter what it is, we need times like this. The whole story about forest fire. I don't know the whole story with forest fire. If it's not a man-made forest fire, forest fires are necessary for the forest. Now, why are forest fires necessary for the forest? Here's why. There's this debate going on right now whether the government needs to constantly bail out these too big to fail companies, right? It's like, oh, we got to be careful with these too big to fail. We can't let them go out of business. It's not a good thing. We can't let them go out of business. But also at the same time, sometimes you got to let those big companies go out of business, because in the forest, when a fire takes place and these trees have been hogging sun for years, now they open up. Because if you ever go in forest, you're walking, you don't get any sunlight. It's very dark. Once those trees go, all of a sudden, within 2 days, everything is green. Now you're seeing small little plants coming up, next trees coming up. This is a way to replenish and give birth to the next small business owner that's going to come up and compete. So I'm actually curious to know what's going to happen next.
Yeah, it's a total reset. I mean, there was a article the other day in USA Today discussing meat packing companies like JBS and a couple other ones, talking about, I believe there was like 2,000 corona virus, people that got it. I don't know if they're asymptomatic or whatever, but 2,000 people got it and this and that. And these are people, dressed in all their stuff and working shoulder to shoulder, cutting up meat and this and that. And it was, the way I read it was to enforce fear on people, like, oh yeah, now your food supply is going to be messed up and all this other stuff. I don't know if you heard of this, but
of course.
But one of my chiropractor buddies that I go see here in Denver, his family's been ranching since the late 1800s. He created a company called Mile High Meats, right? He had me come on. He was like, hey, I want you to be ambassador for this, because I'll send you some cuts of beef. And I was like, oh, this is cool. Let me try it. Did it last year. I was like, wow, this is really good. This and that, really cost effective. So we've been in business together, right? He sends me this article yesterday. I read, I go, Sucks for them because it's going to help out the small guy. So this goes to show, like what you said, it's like, yeah, it's going to hurt these larger corporations that may not be able to pivot as far as like their supply chain is concerned. Like, you ain't going to lay off all those people. You still need to cut, cattle, and, you need to do all that stuff. But for the small guy, like us, we don't have that problem. We can do the distancing. We can do all that. And we don't have to supply the world. We only need to supply maybe 5 states, or 50 just with shipping out our product. But it's just a little different. So, yeah, you're right. I looked at that issue, and I love the analogy, like with the trees, because, yeah, those big ones in the meat companies, if they went away, we would be like overnight, because we'd be ready to rock and roll.
59 million Americans have a job due to small business owners, companies with less than 500 employees. I think you're going to see a wave of small business owners coming up in the next 5-10 years. That's what I foresee happening. Phil, question. Have you been watching any of the bodybuilding interviews, the most recent ones, the back and forth between Sean Ray and Dexter? I got to go there, the ones between Sean Ray and Dexter. Have you watched that back and forth? I know you're a big popcorn guy.
Bro, if I had stock in Orville Redenbacher right now, obviously I have privileged information from both people. But the one thing I will say is that I did ask Dexter who started this. And then he showed me the receipts. And I said, well, you can't say certain things so many times and not get your hand slapped. I would have probably slapped the hand. He slit the throat. He went there. But, as far as like the competitions and stuff, I don't think amongst the pros, we all have Dexter higher than Sean. All of us. Because he won the Olympia. He won the Arnold Classics. He won the Masters Olympia. He's done all that stuff. So when you think about it, and it's something to see, like, okay, you're a Hall of Famer, this and that, Sean, but your claim to fame is that you were top 5 in the Olympia 12 straight years. But Dexter has also won more shows than you. So, like, which career would you rather have? So I think as far as stats are concerned, Dexter wins that head to head. It always sucks with this, especially in sports, and we all do this. Is Jordan still the best? Is GOAT James coming up? This and that. I get the comparisons with me and Ronnie Coleman a lot. Who's the real GOAT? And it's like, well, I never compete against Ronnie. Unfortunately, and I would say this, unfortunately for Sean, he will never know like how he would stack against Dexter Jackson, who I saw in 2008 when he won the Olympia. Because that physique, when he beat Jay, he beat the mask guy. Sean never beat the mask guy. So, it's up for debate, but I think those two definitely, they either need to go out for a drink and you know what I mean, and just get it all out and hug and kiss, or now that we can't shake hands, I don't know, or just really never speak to just don't keep each other's name in each other's mouth again, because the last thing you want is to have it escalate. One of the things I've always tried to make sure we do is not go at each other too hard in front of the general public, because they don't know us. They don't know, like, the fans don't know us like that. So I would prefer, like, if we were to go back and forth, that we were actually in front of each other. So then it's funny. Then it's like everybody can see it, like a round table, you're just going back and forth. But when you do a video and then I do the receipts and then I do a video, it's like, what's the main goal here? Like,
is there a suggestion there? Are you making a suggestion?
I thought you were going to do it, to be honest.
I mean, here's what I think would be interesting. What I think would be interesting, especially during times like this, is if we have Dexter and Sean, they're together, and Dexter brings an ally and Sean brings an ally. So Dexter can say, I'm going to bring Cormier, and Sean's going to say, I'm going to bring whoever Sean wants to bring, okay? And then we do a dialogue. and we open it up, and bodybuilders can come and ask questions, and then they can talk, because I talk to both of them off the record, and they're not as bad to each other as it came out on. But you know what? It'd be interesting to see these guys talk to one another. By the way, just so you know, our buddy Flex joined us.
Oh, what up?
Yeah, and Flex, I'm going to quote what Flex said. When you said he was top 5 for 12 consecutive Mr. Olympias, he says, so basically he was a loser 12 years in a row.
Exactly.
Yeah.
No, exactly. I mean, you want to keep things kind of PC about it and stuff, but you're right. Like, I don't know if I would have, because when I was coming up, I thought of that as an accomplishment as well because of his size difference, the difference of size. And in different eras, he went, he was around, when, Dorian and, he knows like these different competitors. He beat a lot of amazing guys too. But I think what sucks is when you've competed and you didn't beat a person at their all-time best or like really close to it, because that's how I feel like when you could say that you beat someone, did you beat them just one time or did you just own them? Did you own them? Because I'm sure, someone could, like if I lost to somebody, my whole thing was, could you do it over and over again? Because that would let me know that you just got my number. And in sports, that just happens. So yeah, I think that would be really interesting. But all I can say is that I will agree with you. I know that there's not as much animosity as people want to think, because it's very easy in our industry for us to get the drama and like they just want to fight and this, that's like, man, you name a time where you ever seen two bodybuilders fight. Never. So it's only going to just be a ping pong back and forth. But it would be very interesting to see.
Well, I mean, I'll put it out there, and we'll see if anybody's going to want to pull up and do it. So, guys, if you know Dex or Sean, why don't you tag them, let them see this part, and they know how to get a hold of me. And if they want to do it, we can accommodate it. And matter of fact, you know what we could do? We can have it sponsored by a popcorn company. And we can take the funds by a popcorn company and share it with Sean and Dex. And say, this interview is sponsored by, give me a big popcorn, any one of them.
Yeah.
So that's a thought.
I think because I was reading some of the comments and some people were just basically saying like Sean seems kind of bitter and this and that, and and I would say, well, I would be too if I was in his situation. It's not to throw shade on him. It's just that he never won. Like fuck, like you would always but I think that picture right there. I love this one because of the fact that Parabanal definitely shot that, and it's black and white. And I'm jealous because I never got a chance to do a photo shoot where I knew that everything was with the white background and the black and white, because that right there is incredible. It is incredible. I would say this though, Pat. Sean Ray is easily the shit, and that's shit, dude. Like, and I beat this guy many times. but that pose, dude, that's nasty.
It is.
That is just nasty, bro. And what's beautiful about it is that I didn't get a chance to stand next to Sean, but I stood next to Dexter. I did my first Arnold Classic in 2007. I placed 5th, and I remember like, oh yeah, I'm gonna be up there with the big guys, And I remember seeing Dexter backstage, and I was just like, this ain't my night, man. And I was a rookie at that show, and it does take you to lose to someone like a seasoned veteran for you to respect them at a higher level. But yeah, those pictures, man. Whoever shot that, I believe that's a Parabanal shot, because it's the black and white. I believe that was from Muscular Development. That's a sick freaking photograph, man. And that's the beauty of our sport, man, is that you get these photographers that can just capture these moments you couldn't even ask someone to draw that. That's like Marvel, or DC comic, like, go ahead and draw this. And it's like, I don't even know what but that's masterpiece. And I think that's why we train so hard, you know?
So in your eyes, you got Dex ahead of Sean. In your eyes, Dex is ahead of Sean. Okay.
I do because of also who he beat. It was more about who he beat. Take me out of it. Like, it's more about who he's stood next to, because the sport evolves. Like, eras of bodybuilding are different, you know, and what they judged on was just different. So I definitely have him.
I got another picture I got to show Phil, and I want to see your reaction.
Okay.
I just want to see your reaction when you see this one.
Dude. Woo. Yeah. And you know, like, what's crazy about this one is that if you look at the roundness, like, it's just cartoonish, right?
Crazy.
It's just the cartoonish delts on Flex Wheeler. The man, it's gorgeous. It's amazing. And it's the deep cuts in those quads. People don't have that. People don't, where it starts all the way at the hip.
Mm-hmm.
People don't have that.
That's right here?
Yes, like where his hip starts.
Yeah.
All the way down. That's what we call three-dimensional muscle because of the separation. And a lot of guys don't have that. And I don't know how you, like, I'm 7-time Mr. Olympia, and I'm telling everybody, like, I don't even know how you train for that. I think that there's certain things that you're God-given and that you apply yourself to get that separation in detail and roundness. It's one thing to be super, like, ripped up and you get all the striations, and that's great. But it's another thing to have that deep separation. Whew.
So, Phil, here's what we got. So right now we got Flex Lewis on. He just joined us. We got Kai Green on. He just joined us. We got Flex Wheeler on. We got you on. And we obviously have some paparazzi in the Mr. Olympia world that's on.
Oh, man, we got some heat on here, man.
We got some on. So Flex Lewis, gentlemen, Flex and I have spoken before. Kai Green, who, congrats on your movie, man, on being on what you did. You crushed it. And Flex Wheeler, if you can tell your buddies, because I'm trying to make a pitch here. I'd like to pitch something. I would like to be a promoter for a bodybuilding thing here and see if I can pull this off. So, Phil, is it okay if I dream? Is it okay if I dream?
All good.
Martin Luther King said, I have a dream. Is it okay if a Middle Eastern has a dream? And a Syrian Armenian has a dream? Is that okay?
Absolutely.
Okay. So, by the way, Kai Green says, I'm Phil's biggest haters.
100%.
So here's my dream. Here's what I'd like to see. And Flex, Lewis, Flex, Wheeler, Kai, tag your peers. I have a dream. And I hope Dan Solomon sees this as well, because this actually benefits him. And Jake Wood benefits him as well. This is my dream. What if, this is a what if, Mario. I'm just doing a what if. Gotcha. What if, say this thing slows down and goes away? And what if Dan, Jake Wood, they can rearrange the contract with the hotel and get the date to October, let's just say. Move it back from September to give you guys a little bit more time to train to October. Let's say late October. Halloween time, so people can go to Vegas, go to the show, see it. What if we do Mr. Olympia, and at this Mr. Olympia, Phil Heath makes a comeback, Kai Green comes back? What if all of these guys, you're talking, obviously Curry's going to be there. What if we get Dexter to do one more for the hell of it? What if we get everybody to show up and everyone from the past is there to enjoy this show, and we witness craziness, and this becomes an insane sellout event? Hopefully by then people are a little bit more calmer. Now, obviously, Solomon, Jake Wood, those guys going to have the masks and everything on. But I can only imagine if you guys are lined up on stage and Phil, you're there, and Kai comes back and maybe takes a year break from being an actor in Hollywood. He still looks good, by the way. If Kai wanted to get back into it, he could do it. What if that happens now? How do you think the fans would like to see that? You think that would make it a little bit exciting?
Well, absolutely. I was just reading what Kai wrote. He said the Kai Yeah, he said only imagine Kai and Phil, nobody else. um, I think, well, first of all, I mean, every fan in the world knows that Kai and I have had one of the most intense rivalries we've ever seen on stage. But the list of all those guys, I mean, yeah, of course. I mean, people would buy tickets, no question about it. I mean, it would definitely be a large event. I'm sure of it. I'm sure of it. What has Flex Wheeler said? He said,
I have a dream.
oh, he just wrote, he said, I don't think it would be enough time. Too many people lost money due to the crisis, nor do I think it's enough time for athletes to be at their best.
Well, but Phil, that's a part where you said mature muscle. We're going to see who really has mature muscle.
Right, right, right. Well, I'm sure the people that are watching, obviously the people in the industry are watching, I'm sure they've already thought about these things too. At the end of the day, it's their business, and like you said, I mean, athletes have to, essentially prepare and be ready no matter what. What is Kai talking about?
Kai said, "Don't worry, Flex. I'm always on my best." By the way, I didn't know Kai was this good of a shit talker.
He's only got that decent because of me. He knows that.
He took your class. He took a course on shit talking with Phil Heath. I got it. It's pretty impressive.
He started hanging out in a few barbershops, I guess. I don't know. Maybe.
But by the way, since Flex Wheeler said I don't think they could pull it off, here's another creative idea that Mr. Olympia could pull off to keep it healthy. Look, many people around the world pay fights to watch pay-per-view, and they watch MMA pay-per-view. They watch a lot of different thing pay-per-view. What if Solomon and Mr. Olympia came back and said, if you want to see a live bodybuilding show, yet we still do social distancing, if we get 100,000 people that pay $99 for pay-per-view or $69, whatever it could be, we'll host the event. And if we get 100,000 people that pay $69 or $99 and Phil, Kai, everybody promotes it, they also increase the purse and double it. What if they do something like that? So instead of winning $400,000, now you're fighting for $800,000. Again, I'm just being creative. I just said I have a dream. I didn't say it's going to become a reality. It's just a dream.
Yeah, you're transitioning into like what do they call it? The pay-per-view buys and stuff like that. And darn well. Yeah, look, I already knew it. It says what? 1 million people pay me and Phil. Guy really wants to get it on. But yeah, I mean, like, I guess that part is unprecedented as far as like what they did like with MMA and what was it? Acquisition.
Screw it. How about a crazier idea? How about even a crazier idea, Phil? How about a crazier idea? How about if I put $1 million on the line? Okay, hear me out. No, hear me out. Wait a minute, hear me out. I put $1 million on the line for first place. And I put $300,000 second place, hypothetically. But $1 million for first place, and it's pay-per-view driven. If we can drive a certain downloads of pay-per-view, I'll make the person $1 million.
Yeah, you would make it first, second.
And by the way, I would even do it in a way where we can make it even bigger. I would take a certain profit margin off the top, but I would even pass it to everybody else, and we'd sign a contract up front. And if Mr. Olympia didn't want to do it, maybe we would just make $1 million during pandemic times. I think it could be an opportunity. This is when you got to be opportunistic. It's just an idea. So Kai just told me right now, Kai said, Tony Soprano called. He said he wants his shit back. I have no idea what that means. I like Kai already.
What did he say?
He said, might as well deposit that check in my bank account. He seems pretty confident.
Kai
pretty confident.
Kai's always been confident. He's always been confident.
Does confidence win Mr. Olympias, though?
I don't know. Ask Kai.
Yeah, I mean, look, I haven't been there. I'm just a YouTuber. I'm just a business guy. I don't know what's going on here. So I'm the innocent guy.
Confidence is working for him. Someone go hand me a drink.
But Phil, do you think people would think about that if the purse was $1 million?
Oh, I mean, I definitely believe that. I know they had tried pay-per-view one time, and I think Dan would know more about that part. Because I think that was around the time that he was doing Pro Bodybuilding Weekly. But obviously, media has changed dramatically since then. I do believe that you just threw a freaking curveball to a lot of people right now, that you just made this video go, I don't care how many people are currently watching, it's going to happen like after. People are going to be talking about this. My phone's probably going to be ringing like, what the hell? Like, go have Patrick give you the $1 million. Like, go get that $1 million. But I definitely believe that people would have a greater sense of urgency if they knew that there was a bag that big. Because that's a different type of bag. That ain't no $400,000 bag. That's a $1 million bag. That's crazy.
How big is the bodybuilding world fan? Meaning, how many fans who genuinely follow the Mr. Olympia brand? How many are there that actually attend events?
Well, you know, I would say around that 8 to 10,000. I know it's been around like since I started, around that 8,000. They'll say 10,000. They would know better numbers than I would. But I would generally say to actually witness the show, let's just say 7,500 people. What did Flex really say? You would compete?
Flex wants to know, would you compete if Pat put up the $1 million for first place?
It's just like, yeah, but as far as the total people that go to Vegas for that particular event, I mean, I would assume that it has to be at least 50, 75,000, if not more. I mean, a lot of people go to the expo, so I mean, you can't go anywhere. I know for me, like, I have to stay off site because I would bump into massive amounts of people in Vegas that are there for the Olympia if I were to be walking around that week. So,
and by the way, you would still follow social distancing guidelines, right? Because what we would do is, imagine if we did this and we picked a sick hotel. We don't even do it in Vegas. We picked a state that's fairly healthy. So we're not going to do New York. We're not going to do Connecticut. We're not going to do places that have a lot of cases. We picked the most incredible resort. Maybe we do it in West Palm Beach, down the street from Mar-a-Lago, where the hotel is, where's the hotel? Tell me the hotel that I like. Breakers, which is right across the street from Flagler's. We do it at Breakers, and we put the competitors in the suites. Nice. Breakers is where every president has gone and had dinner. Breakers is where billionaires go to. Breakers is an incredible place. So if we did it at Breakers, and then the judges, we bring judges in a way where all the bodybuilders are comfortable with the judges we bring, so it's fair. And then we tee it up. I don't know. It's definitely creative. If you're telling me 75,000, we would almost do like a GoFundMe. Matter of fact, let me tell you, this is getting pretty real right now because hear me out, Phil. Hear me out here. If I put a GoFundMe out there and I put a number and I say, if this many people subscribe to it at a $99 price, I will put half of it into the tournament. So for instance, let's do the number. Let's say if we get 100,000 people that pay $100, how much is that? 10 million. If 100,000 people pay $100, that's 10 million. What if we put half of it into the tournament? And then we get the place. Phil, this is getting interesting to me.
Yeah, but you gotta, that's when you gotta go talk to Mr. Jake Wood.
Why would I need to, though? Why would I talk to Jake Wood, though?
Because he's the one running the show.
No, what if I don't call it Mr. Olympia?
Oh, well, then you would have to get it sanctioned through the federation.
I would need to get it sanctioned by the federation.
Yep.
How much politics is there with that?
I have no idea, man. Like, you would have to, that's something that you gotta...
Dude, I'm just trying to figure out a way to get $1 million in your pocket, man. I'm trying to get $1 million check is what I'm trying to do.
Now, it's funny. There was a time where I thought, Kai, I'll fix it for you. No, it's funny because, and hold on, Kai, I got one for you because I think I told Kai this, but I said, could you imagine if Kai and I did like a remember when they did like the what was it, the race between Ben Johnson, not Ben Johnson, but the Donovan Bailey and Michael Johnson,
I remember that.
the 150-meter
Canadian with.
and he pulled, and it was, you know, it was supposed to be for a certain amount of money and this and that. And I was like, could you imagine if they did something like that with just Kai and myself? Because you don't really need it, you know, like something like that. But it's just, you know, I mentioned it to Kai because I was like, you know, he and I were talking about at one point in time doing some type of film or something that would lead to, you know, but
You can't promote it. You need a promoter behind it. You need a promoter behind it with a big mouth. You need a promoter behind it that.
you need a real Don King to do that.
You need a real Don King for that.
Like Wheeler said, it's a lot of politics, but you know, at the same time, I mean, you know, you would definitely want there to be this with the industry, with the federation and stuff. So my whole thing is that if I was to do another show, it would make sense for me to do an Olympia because, you know, I don't know, because that's the biggest show, right?
Well, then maybe, I don't know.
But here's my thing. Like, so then why don't you think that Dan wanted you to buy it?
I have no idea. Mario was sitting right there, and I said, hey.
Because that's really interesting for me. Like, I'm having a hard time.
You ought to ask him. He's like, well, you know, not really. The company's doing really well, but if you want to maybe put in something and sign the NDA, I said, what's the top line? What's the numbers look like? What's the value if somebody wants to buy it? And I'm asking a buying question. No bite, no follow-up. Let me put you, no. But, you know, it is what it is. Maybe it was a message from the man upstairs saying, you don't want to buy Mr. Olympia right now. I don't know.
I don't even want to get in more trouble than I'm probably already in. My entire world probably got me kicked out of my house, even having this conversation.
Phil, let me make a recommendation.
You have to owe me that money after this conversation. Seriously, you're.
Listen, I'm just trying to raise money. And I'm saying, what if? You ever seen the movie Warrior with Tom Hardy? Oh my gosh, Phil, you gotta watch. It's a sick movie, first of all. Sick movie. Nick Nolte's in it. He kills it. What is the other guy's name who's in it? The brother. He's a great actor. He's in it. So what this guy does is he's a rich guy that says he's putting $5 million on the line to find out who's the baddest man on the planet. One fight. And it's elimination. And the two brothers go up and they face each other in the championship.
Oh, I've heard of this. Yeah.
It's a sick movie. So all I'm saying is the baddest bodybuilder in the world. I don't know. I mean,
you know, my whole thing is, and this is just being honest, like I'm a part of a federation that has been very, very good to me, and I would not want to do another show outside of that. I really believe in that because that's how I built my legacy. You know, I built my legacy being Mr. Olympia. I built my legacy through the NPC.
Am I getting you in trouble, Phil?
No, I mean, like they know where my heart is. They know, and they should know. They should all know where. I'm being serious right now. The NPC, the IBB, they should know where my heart is. I've always been loyal to them. They've done a great job, you know. And even when things that I may not agreed with, like, you know, me losing the Olympia, I mean, it wasn't something like out of something weird with them. It was just a decision that they made. But they've always, and I'll give Jim Mangan a lot of credit, he's always managed to think of the athletes first, and he's always managed to reach out to me in various areas. But, you know, and I will say, like, the prize money has always gone up, you know, with the Olympia. It's always been a little bit better. I do think, like, with Dan Solomon, I'm still wondering why he didn't further pursue that, but that's a whole nother conversation. But I don't think that this conversation should make them think, and I would hope that they wouldn't think anything weird because we're just talking. But they should know where my sentiment is. This is you, and this is probably why they don't like me talking to your ass, because but friends do this. Friends do, you know, we speculate. And you did ask me, can you dream? And a lot of people are going to now have conversation about it. But in all seriousness, I mean, it's all to better a sport that you and I both love. And it's not to tear anything down, it's to actually bring it up.
So Kai is saying you should see my DMs, Phil. People are already DMing him. Phil, this is what I would say to the federation that's watching this. If you have a guy like Phil who just said what he said the last 2 minutes, I would do whatever I could to take care of this man. If you just heard what he just said, I'd lock him up, is what I'd be doing. Whatever that means. Lifetime, whatever. Okay? Because I'd love to have another guy winning 8 times. Phil, you know, I run businesses for a living. If I had it my way, you have no idea how bad I'd love to run a freaking contest and shock the hell out of the world and take care of the bodybuilders in a way where they would tell every other bodybuilder, when that crazy Armenian Assyrian guy puts an event together, you go to it, because this guy knows how to take care of the talent. But I don't know, man. I may go to sleep tonight and wake up with some weird dreams in the middle of the night, and I may just text you and say, Phil, we're doing this, and I'm going to go call them up and see what I could do.
You're going to wake up with a bunch of emails. That's what you're going to wake up with. But how about at some point, would you ever explore doing a show with me?
Are you competing? You're not competing in it. No. I want to put a show where a guy who's fighting for the greatest of all time is in it. That's what I'm interested in. See, here's what I'm interested in. I'm interested in something that's never been done before. I'm not interested. And what I'm saying to you is, I'm not saying anything about, I'll support your event whatever way you want me to support you. You know how I feel about you. I'm a true believer. So you can call me 2:00 in the morning. If I'm up, I'm picking up that call. We have a different kind of a relationship together. You know that, I know that. But I'm talking about if the industry wants to use, look, I'll give you some stats here. Here's some stats for you. Okay, here's some stats for you. Q1, Netflix gained 15 million new subscribers. Q1.
Oh, yeah.
108, you saw that tweet, 183 million global customers, 83 million people watched that one movie, what is it called, with Mark Wahlberg in it? I don't know the name of it. 65 million watched the Spanish-speaking show, De La Paper, whatever, something paper, and then 64 million people watched Tiger King. It's content time. I could get 100,000 eyeballs, and I can get the bodybuilders a fat check. And that I know I could do. But it has to be something that's never been done before. And we take care, we take care of the bodybuilders in a crazy way. But again, listen, Phil, I have a record in my career of shaking things up, and it always ends up favoring the talent. So this is good news for all the competitors, because ain't no way in the world any of these federations are going to give me the license politically. Ain't no way in the world it's going to happen, because they wouldn't want that to take place. But again, going back to it, I'm really curious to know what Mr. Olympia is going to do here and how they're going to pivot.
Yeah, I think they're going to do I think every promoter I'm just going to say it. I think every promoter right now, they have no choice but to swim. They have no choice, because they don't want to sink. Because you mentioned something earlier about, the business being your baby. This is their baby. Every promoter I know, they own supplement stores or gyms or all of it in between. And, I really think that they're going to be taking advantage of this time, because they're competitive promoters as well. They know that maybe their competition in their own state or their neighboring state isn't doing so hot, and they're going to say, hey, I want to take over those shows. So I really believe that we're going to see, just like with all sports right now, I think the strongest are going to survive, but it's going to make everything 10 times better. It's not going to go backwards when everything gets opened up again. I really see it being a lot better for promoters and athletes, because if you come out of this whole crisis worse, you didn't do anything right in the time that you had. You did nothing. You sat on your ass. You didn't, like you say, you didn't sharpen up those weaknesses, make them into strengths. You didn't find out where your blind spots are, as you mentioned. And I am more confident with the guys that I've talked to, the promoters that I know, that, like I said, that their backs are against the wall and they know like they're out swinging that once this gets reopened. So I'm very happy for them. But I'm most importantly happy for the athletes that are going to get a chance to compete, because I know a lot of shows got postponed, but a lot of them are like chomping at the bit to get back in those gyms and get everything, restructured. I would like to see maybe some of the shows get postponed, because then it would give a lot more competitors more time, because God only knows what they're dealing with in their own personal life, with their families being at home, I'm trying to think, like some of the guys on tour, I'm like, I wonder if they're still even together with their spouse right now. Like, like it's wild.
I smell opportunity, Phil.
Well, it has to be, right? I mean, you have no choice at this point. Like you had mentioned something a while ago. I believe it was when you weren't with your present company, but it was like, was it right after 9/11 you were working?
Morgan Stanley Dean Witter, yeah.
Yeah, biggest opportunity right there. A lot of people lost, and some people took advantage, and some people, really started, hammering it home. And I think you said, was it 2008, Pat, that that's when you made your return?
Brother, good memory. Oh, 2008 was my biggest year ever. 2008, I exploded in 08.
That's what I'm saying. Right?
Oh yeah.
Like you turned the corner and you never looked back.
Oh yeah. By the way, you want to know I'm gonna tell you the craziest story here, and then we'll wrap up. 2001, I was at the Mr. Olympia, and in 01, I was at Mr. Olympia, and that was the time where I wanted to be a competitor. I had a decent physique, and you've seen some of my pictures. It was, as an 18, 19-year-old, I had somewhat of a physique, and I went there just to see if I can get in a mix to want to tee it up, and then it was bodybuilding or was financial industry. Morgan Stanley recruited me. The rest, it kind of became a career. So, yeah, this guy really loves this game. Every room of mine had posters of all the bodybuilders on the wall. So,
because we're like, what, a year apart?
We're a year apart. Yeah, we're a year apart.
So, and this is no bullshit. This is me not blowing smoke. I told some of my friends, I'm like, have you seen Patrick Bet-David's pictures when he posted them up the other day? And they're like, no. I'm like, you do realize how tall he is. You actually had pretty good size for how tall you were and really good conditioning. How did you do that? But didn't you find that was that because you were in the Army and you trained all the time, or how did you get, because even at 18 you were buff, ripped, and like I said, being as tall as you were or are, I don't see that very often. So that was impressive. Why didn't you compete like an armed forces show or something?
Oh, I did in the Army. I did in the Army, small competitions. I did in the Army. But nothing post. I'm telling you, I came out, I wanted to be Mr. Olympia. I was going to follow Arnold's footsteps. And I was going to Century Club. Aaron Baker was always there. Chris Cormier was all these guys. Obviously, Chris Cormier was everywhere, by the way. You just pick a club. He was pretty much at the club. Like, for a guy that looks like this, every nightclub I go to after hours, I see you everywhere. But that's a whole different story. But I wanted to compete. I wanted to go I was obsessed. That's the route I was going to take. And when I went to Mr. Olympia, a couple of the guys were very honest about it. They said 6'4.5", 6'5" is just too tall. You're going to have to put 400 pounds off season to win the whole thing. Do you really want to take your body through that? And, I just came back and I said, no, I'm going to go to a completely different field.
Yeah, I think the only person I've seen that was your height, that had the size, was Quincy Taylor.
Sick physique, by the way.
Quincy Taylor. And I believe my trainer, Hani Rambot, worked with him during those peak years. But yeah, and Quincy was, massive. So totally know what you're saying. I had to ask because I was just like, wait a minute, you know, I come from a basketball background, so I see a lot of tall guys, and we lifted weights and stuff, but I'm like, but they didn't have the conditioning. And one of the things that, and I know a lot of people ask me like, hey, what do you think about my physique? And I tell everybody this: if you don't have a foundation of like certain body parts, you don't have to be massive, but you have to be complete. Like if you, the first day you decided to go to the gym, if you had legs, you're probably in a better, you know, way of like, okay, we can build it, because everybody can build an upper body. So you got the legs, you got the foundation. But to me, the other part was, can the person get in shape? But is his skin texture nice?
Mm-hmm.
And no one ever talks about that. And the one person that talked about that to me was Peter McGuff. The first time I talked to him on the phone, he called my job. I was running retail at Bally Total Fitness in Glendale, Colorado. Bally Total Fitness is Philly. How can I help you? This is Peter McGuff from Flex Magazine. How you doing? I'm like, holy smokes, I got your magazine right here with your name, editorial, what's going on? And he gave me some nice compliments, and he talked about the skin, my skin texture being kind of like different, like a Sean Ray, or, you know, really nice. And that was something I noticed about those pictures, because if your skin looks rough and rugged, yeah, some people are like, oh yeah, it's grainy. It's like, no, you got to understand, like, it doesn't photograph well. Therefore it won't sell. And it looks like it's
Interesting.
You know, very, very disgusting. That's why when people say, ugh, gross, this and that, it's like, it wasn't overly vascular. You know, everything had to be nicely, you know, orchestrated. And that's something that skin texture, I tell people all the time, I'm like, I can see someone off the street and I look at them and I'm like, this guy could do really well. And sometimes I see the muscles and I'm like, yeah, but he's going to have a problem with someone that has nicer skin, because the skin has to look extremely healthy. And that goes with the proper diet and your lifestyle and somewhat genetics, right? Because some people, I say, a couple of people ask about, what do I do for my stretch marks? There you go. If you have that across your chest, it's not going to look the same, right? So, you know, kudos to you. But I think next time I'm in town, man, we gotta work out, because I saw the valuetainment thing. I'm like, this guy has a gym in his own office. Like, this is not fair. But I love the fact that, like, you know, you're rooted into that, and you know, health and wellness is always going to be a part of your regimen, and I think that's great. Do your kids like muscles?
Oh my gosh, the middle one, Dylan. Well, you may not remember Dylan, but Dylan's got a physique like Bo Jackson. Dylan's got this massive bubble butt, and his legs, he's got calves that, you know, I don't see a lot of 6-year-olds having that calf. And he flexes. The kid's got a physique, not the tall one. The older one, no, but the middle one, he's got a great physique.
Would you be okay if you wanted to compete one day?
No, not at all. Not at all. I would make sure his dad ran a contest that he could win a few million for first place, though.
There you go. Oh my gosh. Well, maybe I'll help out with the training by then.
Oh, dude, if he sees you again, when you left, he's like, Daddy, were his arms real? What was that? I'm like, no, it's real. He is very big. Yeah. He was blown away by Phil when Phil was over.
Something that I will tell you is the best feeling for me being the champ is that the kids' reactions. Dad, did you see that? And I know sometimes it pisses the dad off, like, yeah, like, look at me, you know, like, but it's not about that, dads. It's about the fact that those kids realize there that took some hard work.
Dude,
and that's a great avenue for parents to say, let's keep these kids involved in sports and keep them active. You know, of course they got to study, and I love the fact that you're, you know, so hands-on with them and the reading and all that stuff. But yeah, they got to work out, because my favorite heroes, and I know we got to wrap this up, but my heroes growing up, definitely Arnold Schwarzenegger, because I mean, he was everywhere in the 80s. But Bo Jackson, you mentioned Bo Jackson. If I could have met that man, I mean, you got a kid growing up in Seattle rooting against the Seahawks because he ran over Bosworth. And I'm like, yeah, like, you ran him over, you know?
right.
he was my favorite athlete growing up. Him and Ken Griffey Jr. were my favorites.
Oh, Ken Griffey is a whole different story.
I have to tell you a story.
Most beautiful swing of all time, by the way.
I saw his first home run in the Kingdom.
Get out of here.
My stepdad took me. He worked for King 5 Television as a TV engineer. My stepdad brought me to the game.
First home run.
And I still remember because my stepdad used to bring his radio to the games, almost like a boom box to the games. And I used to say, Pop, like, why do you bring the radio to the games? He goes, well, if we were at home, we'd hear the announcers. Well, therefore, I can hear the game on the earpiece. And I just remember hearing, and it was really smart. I was like, gosh, because the play-by-play is much better through the radio than it is on television. And I still remember Dave Niehaus. He's no longer with us, but he was the announcer for the Mariners. Deep left center field, goodbye baseball. It was just like, and I was an instant fan. I still have that 89 Upper Deck rookie card.
You still have that?
Hell yeah.
I was about to buy BGS 10 last week.
Nice.
It wasn't an auction. Yeah, I want that card.
Yeah, I know you're a huge fan of the card game and stuff. My cards are still at my parents' house. I'm praying to God they still have them. If they don't, you'll see a grown man cry. But yeah, Ken Griffey Jr. by far was my favorite. And I didn't even play baseball, but I tell you what, he was my favorite athlete, and especially growing up in Seattle. Ken Griffey Jr., Edgar Martinez, a guy named Alex Rodriguez, got to see him play.
Jay Buhner, Randy Johnson.
Saw Randy Johnson throw that no-hitter as well. My stepdad, we always ended up getting seats through his, because it was an NBC affiliate, so he'd always get some cheap seats, and we would go. But yeah, I got to see all that stuff, man, and gosh, those were the days. But Pat, I know we got to wrap up. Thank you. You didn't disappoint. I'm sure you got a lot of people rumbling. I'm sure even my team is like, what the heck is going on? But appreciate you, bro.
Anytime, man. Keep that idea here, and we can talk off hours here, but keep that idea here.
Yeah.
Take care, Phil. Good having you, buddy. We'll talk soon.
Okay.
Take care. Bye-bye. Bye-bye.